Hello, YouTube. I just got out of the shower. I wanted to talk about my experience with domestic violence from a woman. When I finally remembered that my wife had cut my face, it was 2022, and she had been dead for 5 years by then. I had kicked her sister out. She was living with us. And her sister had been keeping a gun under her pillow for reasons that I wasn't aware of at the time. There was a dangerous person that was coming to our home. He's dead now. So is my wife. And this injury that I sustained is from her drugging me while I was asleep. It was late morning or afternoon. It was the daytime, I remember that much. And I dreamed that I was being attacked by someone. And I woke up swinging. And she had an arm that was dangling over my body, over my head. And she had a smile on her face. And I apologized to her. I said, look, I dreamed I was being attacked. I didn't realize that I was actually being attacked at that moment by her. And she continued. I went back to sleep not realizing my face was bleeding and I was injured. And she continued to cut me. There's a smaller incision up here, and there's this primary one right here. And throughout the marriage, she continued to drug me without my consent via forced inhalation as I slept and vaginal intercourse. As crazy as that sounds, she was exposing me to drugs and forcing me to use drugs as I slept and through sexual intercourse. And I was waking up without even realizing it, being under the influence of this substance. And I felt unusually good after we would get together. And I didn't know why. However, I would also feel a chafing, like a burning, And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why? I'm going to get a little graphic here. I know it already seems like I've gotten graphic, but why is it so dry? She was using an ethyl alcohol-based substance that her tampons and her pads were soaked in to get high vaginally. I am not joking. I've never, ever considered that somebody would be capable of that kind of low, but drug users, people who want to discreetly be getting high, and they're severely drug dependent, will do all kinds of crazy things, and this is one of them. She was inserting tampons and having intercourse with me after removing the tampons that were soaked in substances while there were still substances inside of her reproductive tract. And I had no idea that this was going on for almost 10 years. When I finally remembered that I had been cut, I had been suffering from amnesia for 10 years. I didn't even recognize that I had an injury when I looked in the mirror because I was so tired all the time. I was so busy. I was always working, trying to better our lives, constantly working to keep the house clean, to go to college, to work my 2 jobs, to take care of a family. And I had a psychotic wife who I did not know was psychotic. She was a malignant narcissist. She was suffering from a whole spectrum of mental health conditions because of severe substance abuse that had been going on for decades that I didn't know about. And she had been damaged by somebody severely, psychologically, emotionally, physically. And I thought that given the family that she came from, that she would appreciate being loved. But I was wrong. She was suffering from pathologies, And after I began to realize that all this stuff had been going on, people told me some things that were involved in that situation. I couldn't find any support. My church pulled back because I found out that our Bible study teachers had known quite a bit about what was going on. And they told me to bury it, not to ask any questions. We were going to a major church in the Houston area, a Baptist church. And my mother-in-law confirmed that she had known what was going on for at least 16 years prior to my wife's death, at least. And I told the appropriate authorities. Never once did any law enforcement authority or other authority offer me support of any kind. Law enforcement asked me, "What do you want us to do?" I said, "Investigate. Do your job." I don't know, what help is available. I went to apply for help at Lone Star Legal Aid. I applied for legal assistance with them on 6 separate occasions. I contacted all the bar attorneys in 2 of the largest counties in the Texas state, the United States, very populous places. All of the bar attorneys, everybody who was on the Texas bar list. It was over 700. I reached out for emotional support, and the only emotional support that I found was from somebody who I later found to be stealing from me. Somebody who had been widowed for a long time, and it was a bad situation because I ended up being re-victimized with additional crime by their family. That's often how it is. When you come from a family where you already had very serious relationship challenges with people that you were born into, and then you marry into a family with somebody who's got the same or similar type circumstances, you end up having nobody. And women just avoid me like the plague, When a man reaches out for emotional support to a woman, it scares them because the women want this man to be a rock. They want a man to be strong, have this facade of invulnerability, like they're never going to get sick, they're never going to die, nothing bad can happen to them, and they're just going to shake off any kind of stuff that comes their way. But it simply isn't like that. Ladies, y'all need to learn when to lend a shoulder or an ear. You need to learn when to listen, when to offer support. Men hurt too. We do. We hurt. The same way that you hurt, we hurt. We're just the other sex, Women are encouraged to fall apart. They're encouraged to feel pain, express pain, and feel emotion. When a man does it, oh my God, the criticism, the condemnation that I've experienced from women. When I sought to find somebody who could empathize with what I'd been through, you just can't even begin to imagine how many women criticized me. Said, "Oh, you're not healed yet. Why are you talking to me? Why are you dumping this at my feet? You're not ready to be in a relationship. You don't deserve to be happy." I swear to God, I have heard those words from women. I have read those words in chat from these malicious, toxic, just terrible human beings. And the deal is that nobody wants to be there. When you are suffering, you're in the darkness alone. You are. You can call that National Domestic Violence Hotline. They won't be there either. They're not going to help you. You call the number. I've called them before just to see, for shits and giggles, what kind of help is going to be available to men or anyone who calls this hotline to see. And it'll be 9 years this year that she's been dead. I called the hotline, and can you guess what happened? They hung up on me. I didn't get to talk to a human being. They said that all the available people were speaking to other people, or there wasn't enough staff on the hotline. I actually recorded it, uploaded it to this channel. And they said, we're going to disconnect the call now. It's an automated system. There's no support for men who experience suffering of that variety. There's an abundance of support for women. The system that is supposed to help people is sexist. And you go on, and the general public just doesn't want to be bothered with your hurts. They don't want to experience your pain. Not even by proxy. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to help you be like, hey, I'm a good person. Why don't you be in a relationship with me? Hey, I can see that you're a really great human being. They never asked me, what kind of person I was. They don't want to hear about how I treated my partner when I was in a relationship with her. They don't want to hear about what kind of husband that I was. They don't care about that. All they care about is the quality of life and the experiences I can provide them now. They don't want to hear about what a great guy I was back then, because I was a great person. I was. And now, I'm dealing with this 9-year path of ruin where only just this last 2 years I've begun to recover financially, because I went through foreclosure, I lost my job, I got very, very sick for years after she died. Within just a few months when she died, I fell seriously ill. Ended up in the hospital a couple of times, serious respiratory illness, heart stress. Never thought that could happen to me. I saw all my investments, all my savings, and my house. Everything went into default, including my car loan. All my investments got wiped out in 18 months. 15 years worth of work and hard progress. And the number one thing I'm going to tell you is, if you're grieving, if you're falling apart, don't expect anybody to be there. And you're going to have to, I hate to say this, put whatever feelings that you have aside. You're not going to be able to stop and process, especially if you don't come from a healthy family or have a healthy family in-laws that are there emotionally to support you. Nobody extended me any emotional support or financial assistance of any kind. The only thing they did was pay for a cremation. And then that was it. I never heard from them again. Nobody ever called, check and see, hey, y'all okay? Y'all need anything? I had 2 sister-in-laws, a mother-in-law, a brother-in-law, his family. None of them ever called, check on us. Nobody asked, do you need anything? Can we help you with anything? That's how it is in America today. White families, white dysfunction. You have to put all the emotional stuff aside whenever your spouse dies and it's just you don't have a good family you all came from. You have to put it all aside. And you have to work through that stuff on your own. Focus on not losing your house. Don't make any major decisions. Don't start any major business ventures. Somebody tried to get me to start 2 different businesses. Within 2 years after she died, it was a disaster. Lost all of it. Everything we invested. Very quickly. It wasn't a substantial amount, I couldn't get anything off the ground. I was too busy fighting off false reports from a mother-in-law who was trying to get our kids. She was filing false reports to social services and to law enforcement. And those sons of bitches believed her for the longest time until I started telling my part of the story. Now, I hope one day those people get what they deserve. Thanks for listening.